Joint Statement of the Communist and Workers' Parties. On the 1 year since the imperialist war in Ukraine. We must strengthen the struggle against the monopolies and the bourgeois classes, for the overthrow of capitalism, for the strengthening of the class struggle against the imperialist war, for socialism. 1 year has passed since the start of the imperialist conflict in Ukraine, which is one of the consequences of the tragic situation that has developed for the peoples after the overthrow of socialism and the dissolution of the Soviet Union. The peoples of the two countries, Ukraine and Russia, who lived in peace and prospered together as Soviet republics under the USSR, have been shedding their blood for 9 years now, culminating in last year's massacre. This is due to the plans of the USA, NATO and the EU, in the context of the fierce competition of those powers with capitalist Russia for the control of markets, raw materials, transport networks and geopolitical pillars in the Eurasian region. The Communist and Workers' Parties express our solidarity with the peoples of Ukraine and Russia, who are paying for the imperialist conflict with their blood. We have shown and continue to show the peoples that the developments in Ukraine are taking place in the framework of monopoly capitalism, rejecting the false pretexts utilized by both sides of the conflict. We stood up against the action of fascist and nationalist forces, anti-communism, the persecution of communists and trade union persecution, which were intensified in the first year of the imperialist war in both countries. We salute the actions that were held this year by a series of CPs, which mobilized the masses against the imperialist war through statements, mass events, rallies, demonstrations outside NATO and US military bases, in ports, railways and highways against the sending of new weapons to the slaughterhouse of the imperialist war. We call upon our fraternal parties to join this necessary enlightenment and practical work. We stress once again that the peoples have no interest in siding with one imperialist or another, with one alliance or another that serve the interests of the monopolies. We call upon the peoples of the countries involved in the war to strengthen their struggle against the propaganda of the bourgeois powers that lure the peoples to the meat grinder of the imperialist war using various spurious pretexts. To demand that the military bases be closed and that all troops on missions abroad return home. To strengthen the struggle for the disengagement of their countries from imperialist organizations and alliances such as NATO and the EU. The interest of the working class and the popular strata requires that the class criterion be strengthened when analyzing the developments, so that the peoples raise a common front against the camp of the imperialists, who are clashing for their interests, causing enormous human losses, extensive material damage and exposing the entire humanity to the real danger of nuclear annihilation. The working people must chart our own independent path and strengthen the class struggle against the monopolies, the bourgeois classes and the imperialist war, for the overthrow of capitalism, for socialism, which remains as timely and necessary as ever and points the way to peace, friendship and mutual cooperation among the peoples.